Imagine living in a time when the Earth was mostly covered in ice. Early humans had to deal with freezing temperatures and glaciers where we now have forests and farmland. Life was tough, and survival wasn't easy. Early humans had to rely on each other a lot. They formed small, close-knit groups to ensure they had enough food and water. In some areas where food was abundant, people settled down more permanently and had the time to create art and socialize. But most of the time, cooperation was essential for survival. This is why early societies were often quite equal, with everyone pitching in to help the group. Men and women had different roles. Men usually hunted while women gathered plants. They used the resources around them and had to be very resilient and creative to survive. Any change in their environment could be disastrous, but they always found ways to adapt. And scientists have identified at least 5 major ice ages in Earth's history, periods when the planet cooled significantly and glaciers spread across the land. These ice ages were triggered by various factors, like less sunlight reaching the Earth's surface. As the glaciers grew, sea levels dropped, and even areas near the equator experienced dramatic climate changes, turning jungles into savannas and grasslands into deserts. These changes forced plants and animals to either adapt or go extinct. The most recent ice age started over 100,000 years ago and peaked around 18,000 years ago. Massive ice sheets, some up to 2 miles thick, covered large parts of the northern hemisphere. As the climate cooled, humans began to spread across the globe. Low sea levels allowed them to move into Southeast Asia, Japan, Australia, and eventually North America from Siberia. And humans moving into colder regions had to invent new ways to stay warm. They made clothing from animal hides, using rock tools to clean and prepare them. Early clothing was likely simple, like blankets draped over the body. But by 30,000 years ago, humans had developed sewing needles from bone, wood, and ivory, allowing them to create more fitted and functional clothing. A famous example is Ötzi, a man who lived about 5,000 years ago and was discovered in the Alps between Austria and Italy. He wore a coat made from goat and sheep hides, tight-fitting leggings, a bearskin cap, and shoes made from woven grass and deer hide. This advanced clothing helped people survive in cold climates. As the Earth began to warm up around 17,000 years ago, glaciers melted and sea levels rose. This created new lakes and rivers and changed the landscape. People started to exploit these new waterways for food. The rising waters also isolated some groups, leading to the development of distinct civilizations in places like Southeast Asia, Australia, and the Americas, which remained largely separated until much later in history. And until around 12,000 years ago, human populations were quite small and depended on hunting and gathering to survive. A typical group might have only 15 to 40 people, divided into family units. This small size made it easier for members to form close bonds, which was crucial in a world where cooperation often meant the difference between life and death. Groups larger than 40 would have struggled to find enough resources, so they usually split up to ensure everyone could survive. Their diets varied greatly depending on their environment. People in lush, warm areas had access to a variety of plants and animals, while those in colder regions relied more on meat and fish. Early humans used spears, nets, and bone hooks for fishing, and hunted smaller animals for food. However, they also occasionally hunted large game like deer, horses, and even woolly mammoths. These hunts required sophisticated tools and a lot of teamwork, but the rewards were significant, providing ample meat, hides, and bones. For shelter, early humans used both natural refuges like caves and built their own structures from materials such as wood, bone, and animal skins. Some caves, like the Pangayasedi cave in Kenya, were home to humans for tens of thousands of years. In places where caves weren't available, humans built shelters from mammoth bones and animal hides, with evidence of such structures found in Eastern Europe, including Ukraine, Poland, and the Czech Republic. There are strong signs that even tens of thousands of years ago, humans had developed some form of spirituality or religion. Natural events like sunsets, earthquakes, and volcanoes, which we now understand scientifically, likely held supernatural significance for them. They might have believed in animism, where spiritual essence exists in people, plants, inanimate objects, and natural phenomena. Detailed cave paintings of animals might be evidence of their spiritual beliefs. They also buried their dead, often with household items, suggesting a belief in the afterlife or some form of spiritual ritual. And many archaeologists believe that ancient hunter-gatherer societies were quite egalitarian. The small group size, lack of wealth, and nomadic lifestyle contributed to this equality. However, there were likely differences in physical ability, intelligence, and charisma among group members, which were recognized and utilized. Older theories suggested that men did most of the hunting while women stayed home to cook and nurse children. However, more recent research indicates that both men and women made significant contributions to their societies. While men might have hunted for meat, women gathered plants and other foods, which often provided the majority of the group's caloric intake. Additionally, when men were away hunting, women took on many other essential tasks such as protecting their homes, repairing shelters, and making tools. And understanding life in the Paleolithic Age is challenging, so scholars often look at modern hunter-gatherer societies for clues. There are only a few of these societies left today, found in remote areas where farming is difficult or undesirable, such as the Kalahari Desert, equatorial African forests, the Arctic, and parts of Australia. For instance, the San people of the Kalahari Desert in southern Africa, who live in parts of Botswana, Namibia, and Angola, have been well studied. Those maintaining traditional lifestyles live in groups of up to 60, comprised of several related families. They survive by foraging wild vegetables, nuts, fruits, and insects, and hunting game like antelope with throwing sticks, spears, and small bows with poison-tipped arrows. Their society is mostly leaderless, though respected hunters or elders might hold some authority. Despite their egalitarian nature, there are clear divisions of labor. Men create fires and primarily hunt, while women gather food and build shelters from tree branches and grass. Water is scarce, so the sand collected from plants and watering holes, often storing it in hollowed-out ostrich eggs. In contrast, the Inuit of the Arctic, covering northern Alaska, Canada, and Greenland, adapt to an environment where plants are scarce but animal life is abundant. They hunt and fish for caribou, walrus, whale, seal, polar bear, muskox, and fox. These animals provide meat, fuel, hides for clothing, and materials for boats. Men typically hunt and fish, while women care for children, maintain the home, and process the food. The harsh and dangerous nature of hunting means that women often outnumber men in Inuit communities, historically leading to practices like polygamy and, in some cases, infanticide. Both the San and Inuit have been influenced by nearby agricultural societies and modern technology. The Inuit, for example, now use firearms for hunting. However, the Awa people of the Brazilian rainforest have had limited exposure to such influences, offering a glimpse into a way of life that might closely resemble that of our ancestors. The Awa, numbering around 350, live a semi-nomadic lifestyle in the Amazon. They abandoned settled communities in the 19th century to live as hunter-gatherers. Their society is highly egalitarian, with few material possessions, and they live in small groups of up to 30. They gather fruits like the babasu palm's oily, protein-rich fruit, and fish from the rainforest's abundant waters. They also hunt various animals using bows and arrows. And different environments inspire diverse spiritual beliefs among hunter-gatherers. The Inuit have rich mythology with tales of fantastic hunts and creatures, viewing the northern lights as a supernatural phenomenon. The San believe in Kagan, a sometimes helpful, sometimes foolish being who can take animal forms. They practice rituals for significant life events and recognize shamans with connections to the spiritual world. The Awa perform unique religious ceremonies, particularly on full moon nights, and engage in rituals that connect them to the spirit world, seeking intervention for earthly matters.